Tier 1 match of the day for the Korean Dota 2 League. My name is Whiplash, this is the KDL. Here we go into the pick and ban phase between PHOENIX and MVP PHOENIX. Already two fast bans on both ends. Nyx Assassin looks like he is not going to get through so far today. And a first ban on Enchantress from PHOENIX. And this is the Tier 1 match. Think of it as a Code S for Dota 2 in Korea. Only the top 4 teams in the entire Korean scene can be in Tier 1. Whereas Tier 2 has the top 6 teams below the top 4 teams in Tier 1. And then there's also a lower Tier 3 league below that. I believe they like to call it like a PC Bang League, like a cyber cafe league. It's generally more online than in the Nexon studio. So with the first few picks and bans underway, nothing too crazy for the bans on both ends. The Slark basically never makes it through for Koreans. But the first pick we're seeing is the Timbersaw. Love the Timbersaw pickup. There's Segun from PHOENIX. And MVP PHOENIX picking up the Invoker as well as the Crystal Maiden. So they're going to have some strong support, some reliable support as well. And Invoker most likely going to that off lane, middle lane. But we could see him solo the safe lane if they decide to go with an offensive tri-lane follow-up. Here's Dubu Kim Jong from MVP PHOENIX. Like MVP does like to discuss things at least a little bit for their picks, and the second hero for PHOENIX will be the Visage, or Visagi, as it would be pronounced in Korean. So far we have a pretty much confirmed offlaner for PHOENIX. We could see the Timbersaw end up in the middle lane. Certainly not unheard of. We've seen Blitz do that from time to time in the NSL, and is a capable hero in either lane. There's FX from PHOENIX, Choi Jong-sop. Team's still thinking about the picks they want. There's Ryzen. Lee Jung-yong. And his little slogan there is saying, "I will win." Ryzen, I would say, is the goofball of MVP as well. Ooh, interesting. Okay, so we have a Wisp pickup for MVP PHOENIX. Now, the thing is, whenever you pick up the Wisp, you know that the rest of the hero pool kind of gets slimmed down slightly as far as potential picks. Because when you go for the Wisp, you want another hero that you can really use to do a lot of ganking with, or a lot of pushing to help out the Wisp, whether it be a Tiny or a Chaos Knight. You want something that can travel with that Wisp when he relocates around the map, in order to really make the most use of that hero, because that's really where his strength comes from, is being able to have that crazy map presence. And as we look at the bans on both ends, MVP PHOENIX banning out a pair of strong heroes, the Storm Spirit and the Lifestealer. PHOENIX getting rid of the Outworld Devourer and the Chen. So Puck will be picked up next for PHOENIX, and Tiny as the fourth hero for MVP PHOENIX. So this is certainly going to be a carry Tiny Wisp support, and the Crystal Maiden will be helping out as well. She may do a little bit of jungling early on in the game as well. And that leaves MVP with a off-lane hero that they need to pick. It is still possible to put the Invoker there, but not so likely. And KSH from 5NQ, his slogan there is something along the lines of, "I will absolutely break you." There's March from MVP, formerly FXO, PHOENIX-DOTA2. I think March's slogan is something along the lines of, "I will be the best and always win," or "I will be the best in all games." So 5NQ, they're actually running pretty low on time remaining. They've already gotten rid of almost all of their reserve time, down to 7 seconds, and they still need to ban out a few heroes, as well as pick their final one, but they do decide to finish out their core with the Luna. And this means that we most likely will see a final support get picked up for 5NQ, and their lanes are pretty much set in stone from the look of things. And it's just going to come down to, what does QO want to pick for his final support? And QO's slogan says, "I will pick Pudge," which of course did not happen. So QO, what a letdown, man. Come on. After the opening day when we had a Pudge in the very first game that unfortunately was not too effective at all, I was hoping that maybe QO could kind of show us some good Korean Pudge. But that will not be the case, at least for game number 1. And MVP PHOENIX, they're just looking at the last ban that they should get. They already have the supports they need, but they are missing an offlaner, so MVP PHOENIX looking to ban out a support, and the Sand King will be the final ban, and a very quick offlaner ban from 5NQ, getting rid of the Nature's Prophet. So I think Cynical from 5NQ saying something along the lines of, "I want to show you the Dota 2 Korean scene. Last pickup for MVP PHOENIX will be the Clockwork." So Clock versus Timbersaw, if they end up in the same lane, not going to be the best position for the Clockwork. There's Heen Lee Sung-gong from MVP. And Heen saying he will show you the best Korean play. And the final pickup for 5NQ will be the Shadow Demon. And with all players grabbing onto the heroes, everything's getting locked into place, so let's go ahead and move into the Tier 1 match between MVP PHOENIX and their opposition 5NQ. Let's move into the match. As we move into the Korean Dota 2 League, I'll go ahead once again introduce these two teams. 5NQ versus MVP PHOENIX in the Tier 1 match. This is the first set in a best of 3. We have QO on the Luna, FX as the Shadow Demon, KSH playing the Puck, Cynical as Visage, and then we have our final 5NQ member on the Timbersaw. Not going to get a shot of him, but we do have Heen as the Invoker. Wisp being played by... They are just moving around this camera a little bit too fast for me to get everyone
30초
correctly.
후 전투가 시작됩니다.
But once I catch their names again, I'll be sure to point them out. 5NQ being very aggressive, just making sure they get some wards down early on in the match. I want to point out both of those wards will block those respective creep camps. We do have Ryzen as the Wisp, doing a little bit of warding himself. And 5NQ going to kind of move into their respective areas on the map. But it does seem to be an offensive tri-lane with that Luna. Visage and Shadow Demon. Lanes don't look entirely set in stone for the time being. Actually, QO, he is normally a mid player, but playing as the Luna. And this is actually going to be a dual lane versus dual lane in the mid. March and Ryzen versus QO and Cynical. Really cool to get to see the dual lane in the mid, not something that's seen every day. And that means we're going to have another dual lane in the bottom. KSH and FX versus Heen on the Invoker. And Crystal Maiden helping him out. The creep camp is blocked as well. Keep that in mind. And that does leave Clockwork versus Timbersaw in the off lane. So Sagon versus, I believe, March. Oh, actually, it's going to be Forev. And we have seen March do a lot of the offlaning in the past. But it also, I did briefly hear that 5NQ and MVP Phoenix kind of, switching up things a little bit since Season 2. Not unheard of. These teams still are generally somewhat volatile, as we are pretty early on into the Korean Dota 2 scene. It'll still be at least a few months plus before we see any Kespa teams pick up some of the Dota teams. But I wouldn't be surprised if we did see that in the near future. This is actually pretty cool to see. Both teams, they're keeping their supports in the mid lane. Forev doing a little bit of harassment against Sega and using those cogs, drain a little bit of mana. Cynical about halfway on health, trading a few hits with reason. And so far, Puck, Timbersaw, both leading the charts and the last hits. But the Tiny picking up that invisibility rune. Cynical, if he goes slightly over that edge, and it could be lights out for Cynical and a first blood on March, but that's not going to happen. The Observer Ward does reveal March. It's a nice preemptive ward placement, and a little bit of annoying creep throwing, chipping away at their health. Nice block from KSH, using that phase shift just to avoid a little bit of extra damage. Unfortunately for March, whiff on the avalanche, not hitting anybody. And so far, the lanes seem relatively even for last hits. Oh, nice stun and a little bit of a toss. QO, he is low, but not low enough to grab a death. He'll survive. Reason though is getting a little bit low on health. He may have to use that salve sometime soon. Sagan's certainly got to be a happy camper in this lane. When it comes to Timbersaw and Clockwork, Clockwork can, do a little bit of damage, but I mean, not even just against the Clockwork, but against any melee hero that's strength-based. Timbersaw just eats them alive with Whirling Death. And, with his reactive armor, he can go toe-to-toe. Here it comes the disruption from FX. And the extra damage does not hit on Debol, but the first blood, I believe, goes onto the Shadow Demon. And Crystal Maiden falls shortly afterwards to the Puck. A nice Sunstrike hitting the Shadow Demon from the Invoker. Impressive to see the Clockwork still somewhat keeping up with last hits with the Timbersaw, not too far behind. And ironically, the offlaners are pretty much getting the most farm in the lanes. But the rest of them not too far behind. March actually ahead slightly over Luna. And Ryzen just getting a little bit of extra DPS. Sunstrike attempted to hit Sagon. No dice. I really do like the zoning that Reason is doing with the Wisp as well. Making this lane quite easy for Tiny to farm. And oh, Forev actually manages to pick up a kill on Timbersaw. And at the same time, March He's tossing QO up in the air, but falling very low on health. No nukes coming in from Cynical. Won't be able to finish off the Tiny. And the Salve quickly used. Smoke from the Crystal Maiden. Looks like she wants to move towards the middle lane. Uh-oh, QO very low on health. In comes the toss. And there we go. The Wisp with enough DPS to finish him off. And Cynical will end up falling with the rotation from Dabu. Excellent plays from MVP, starting the pull ahead in this game. He's in a lot of trouble. Can he make it out of there? Another hit or two, and he's dead. It's just enough. KSH does get a kill on the Invoker. Well, so far Tiny, he's got a lot of stat items. Plus 10 strength, 4 branches, just finishes up his power treads. He's gonna have a TP and eventually come back to that mid lane should he need to go home. Notice no bottle on the Tiny as well. Just rushing straight into those treads. So he just wants the farm. Or potentially go for some ganks as well. No. Unfortunately missed on the Sunstrike. And yeah, they gotta go ahead and back out of there with the Timber Saw in hot pursuit. Getting a lot of damage on March. They don't get him. Or excuse me, March does not escape. Donates a kill to 5 and Q. Really nice town portal from the Timber Saw. And ooh, as well, the puck ends up dying in the bottom lane. So Heen and Dubu going to work. It's just becoming a really back and forth action paced match. We do have Clockwork sitting in the mid lane, looking for an opening. In comes the hook, it's good. And QO stuck in the cogs. Does he have enough DPS to finish him off with the Sunstrike? Indeed he does. Down goes QO once again. Looks like Seigun just pulling a few creeps to the neutral creeps. Getting some extra farm while Forev's away. Forev did manage to certainly make his time away from the line worth it though, as he killed the Luna. QO dishing out a little bit of damage against March, but he's already pretty tanky as the Tiny. And especially with the support from Ryzen, he's already topped off the full strength quite quickly. Doesn't have too much farm beyond the treads. And he's actually popping in the jungle for a second. Looks like he wants to pull up some creeps. Oh, ultimate from QO. Easy pickings on the Wisp. And also there's going to be a follow-up in the Luna. She has a haster and there's enough for her. Almost enough for a nuke. Oh, if there was enough mana, that stun would have interrupted the town portal and that would have been another kill for 5 and Q. So far as levels go, not surprisingly, the solo offlaners are leading the pack. And followed by that, the respective heavy damage dealers in both lanes, and then supports following that. So the chain of command, essentially. Zubu deciding to use a smoke. Going to move towards the top lane. Forev's only at a half health, so Seigun should be feeling pretty confident, but hold on a second. QO just teleported to the bot lane, providing some assistance. And that's going to make this smoking really not too useful. Ooh. Out comes the Chakram. Not enough to finish off Clockwork, but he is low. Most likely will end up walking back home, which indeed he does. It looks like we're going to see a Hand of Midas on the Invoker. Not too far away from the recipe. Heen should have that in his grasp pretty soon. Also important to note, Cynical has picked up level 6. He's going to have the familiars flying around, doing some extra DPS and stuns, and scouting to be annoying. Here comes Forev to the bottom lane, just waiting for an opportunity to get the hook. Also March, Raisin smoked. Good Sunstrike. Chips away at almost half of FX's health, but looks like they see what's going on. They're backing up, playing it a little bit safe. Puck, can he get to the Invis Rune in time over March? No, he doesn't, unfortunately.
레디언트의 중부 포탑이 공격받고 있다.
That looks like with a little bit of ball trading. Oh, hold on a second. Borev moves in on the puck, and Puck just used his abilities to try to escape out of there. Oh, wow. Excellent job trying to stay alive, using his ultimate as well. He does end up dying, but the rest of 5 and Q, they had enough time to come in, but very nice. Raisin was able to TP Tiny away, tries to save him. Looks like he's gonna end up dying. Clockwork, though, does remain for the time being, but Ryzen, oh, very nice tether to Heen, stays alive, but does not want to get over anxious, and that turnaround, he should have just ran immediately after getting the tether on the Invoker, but decided he wanted to play a little bit aggressively, and that did result in his death. So 11 minutes on the clock, 7-7 between MVP Phoenix and 5 and Q. First match of the best of 3 in the Tier 1 bracket. And it's really been a back and forther so far. Both teams getting some pretty impressive plays, a little bit of overextensions at times as well, but it really still is anyone's game.
다이어의 상부 포탑이 공격받고 있다.
We have a TP in to the top lane. QO gonna get a little bit of farm, killing off these creeps. Also spotting a new Bloom skin for his Luna. Looking pretty darn cool. There's Invoker's Hanamidas finally picked up. Better late than never, I suppose. That's gonna help him catch up, get some extra levels. In comes 4F once again. It is not Luna's day. Also a throw on the Wisp, but Tiny's got to be very careful. He's low on health. Saigon doing what damage he can. But still very close back and forth. 2 supports on Phoenix, though. They end up getting killed. I guess it kind of evens out. They do kill off QO. As far as gold goes, very even on both ends. Almost even. That one guy in the blue jacket, he just is very interested on what's happening on his phone. I'm pretty sure he's just watching the Korean stream on his phone, even though the screen's in front of him. Well, looks like we hit a quick pause, ladies and gentlemen. But for those of you recently tuning in, this is the Korean Dota 2 League. My name is Whiplash. I am broadcasting live from the Nexon studio. A little bit of a piggyback broadcast on the Koreans. But it's a lot of fun to be able to broadcast here. Unfortunately, solo cast, but I've been talking to the producers. There is a chance that I may be able to grab some of the English-speaking pro gamers and bring them on to join me for some analysis in the future KDL matches. So I'll let you guys know if indeed I get to do that in the later matches. But it looks like we're moving back into the game. Unpaused, almost 13 minutes in, 8-9. 5 and Q, a slight lead, but really it's still anyone's game. Unfortunately for QO, he is 1-3. Has a good amount of assists at 5, but still not the position you want to be with the Luna. Ryzen and March continuing to just farm up. Tiny already starting to go to work on that Agnum Scepter. It's got the 2 out of 4 required items. Needs a little bit more to complete it up. Ogre Axe and Staff of Wizardry is what he has for the time being. Okay, smoke from Cynical and FXO. Borev hit with the ultimate, the Purge to slow him down, and there is just too much DPS there. That's all she wrote for the Tinker. The Clockwork, excuse me. They're both goblins, though, and they both fight with technology. Alright, well, invisibility rune in the bot lane. Gonna be ignored by the Luna. Just wants to make sure that no one else picks it up. Alright, there you go, he's gonna get it.
레디언트의 상부 포탑이 공격받고
Hina trying the push the tier 1 tower in the bot lane ever so slightly, but Segun deciding to hop in the fray. Say, no way, Jose. You're not pushing this tower if I have anything to do with it. As far as last hits are concerned, Tiny is pretty high up there, with Invoker is slightly following him, about 10 hits behind, 9 exactly. And Puck and Timbersaw also doing a good amount of farming, but really Luna is suffering at 43 last hits, almost 15 minutes into the match. Shadow Demon picks up a smoke. We could see a little bit of more ganking power from PHOENIX. Would be nice to see. That's surprisingly no tier 1 towers picked off as of yet. But really, neither team, at least until the later stages, has a lot of pushing power. It's focused more around their cores. And Puck picking up the Blink Dagger. It's going to certainly help out PHOENIX's initiation ability over MVP PHOENIX. Let's not forget the Wisp Tiny combo, which I would like to see a little bit more of. The Tiny has been doing a lot of farming and not a lot of ganking. The relocate ability is ready. Same with the hook shot for MVP. They have the initiation, all of it that they really need. Quick tether on the march. If they can find a good hook, it would be a great time to go on either the Visage or the Puck. That doesn't seem to be happening. MVP pushing in this tier 1 tower on the bottom lane. And it looks like PHOENIX, they're deciding to trade tower for tower, as much of their team is spotted in the top lane as that tower falls. So indeed, it is a tier 1 for tier 1 trade. Both teams showing a considerable level of evenness across the board. And even the gold graph still showing 49 to 51% with a difference of 570. Really not that much, 16, almost 17 minutes into the match. Well, PHOENIX, they're starting to go to work on this tier 1 tower in the mid lane. It's getting chipped away. There's no fortification, and that's going to be it for the second tier 1 tower on PHOENIX's end. And once again, tower for tower trade. As far as money is concerned, though, Invoker really starting to top the charts. I'm sure, of course, thanks to the Hand of Midas. Kind of skews things slightly. I mean, you're just going to get more golden experience when you own that item. Not always a great item to get, depending on the situation, but still a great item nevertheless. And Tiny finally picks up his Aghanim Scepter. Happy to see that. And there's a lot of action from both ends at this tower. Cogs, out goes the Chakram, not enough. The DPS is hitting Dubu enough. Oh, the nuke's hit, but in comes March as well as the Wisp, and they're able to get a triple kill. It's 3 for 1, and the tower is going to fall as well for Ev. Does he have the hook? Yeah, I think he just used it from what I can hear. Doesn't manage the hit, KSH, but it may not even matter as the Wisp, there's enough DPS from him to finish him off. And wow, that is a team wipe on PHOENIX. MVP have just completely pulled ahead in every way, shape, and form possible. They got 2 towers out of the trade, and now this is really going to be a fantastic position for MVP to be in. Tiny's already picked up his Aghanim Scepter. There's not a whole lot PHOENIX can really do, I feel, against PHOENIX's lineup when it hits the late game. At this current rate, anyway. Things are going to have to change. Tiny looks like he's going to work his way into a Mask of Madness, which is going to be a really cool item to see on Tiny. Once he gets level 16, his base damage is incredibly high, but I mean, he hits like a tree, which is good, but bad at the same time because trees don't really move. So he's going to need some attack speed to help balance out the sheer damage that he can output. Well, Visage is smoked up for the time being. I think Shadow Demon may be his partner in crime as well. And Heen picking up a Necro Book. Looks like they want to press their advantage and get a few more towers to their name. And the Timber Saw only about 1 or 2 items away from his Bloodstone. He did decide to pick up a bottle, though. A little bit uncharacteristic on the Timber Saw if you aren't going in the mid lane. But he has been doing a good amount of roaming, and he did switch up his lanes a lot throughout the match. And the Clockwork does have a Force Staff. Luna's still lacking any real core items, unfortunately. It's really hurting as far as the farm goes. Only up to 57 last hits. Oh, wow. The Sunstrike still hits, and that brings QO down to about a 1/4 of the remaining health. The fortification is forced on the tier 1 tower, but I don't think we're going to have anyone come in and help defend. March going to town in the mid lane, forcing a fortification in the tier 2, backing up following that. And unless my eyes are deceiving me, that's a Helm of the Dominator, not a Mask of Madness. And he also has a Blade of Clarity on him. So a few different items he could build into. Very interesting item build. Nice Sunstrike, hits Sagan, chipping about 1/3 of his health away, and probably that's going to be a deny. No, it's not. Heen with the clutch Forge Spirits does manage to get the last hit on that tier tower in the top lane. Invoker following this up with a level 2 Necro Book, in addition to his Force Staff. And also we have a Helm of the Dominator on the Luna, but really besides that, no other important items to note. She is just starving. Starving for farm, needs to get that BKB up as fast as possible, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. Oh, the hook just grazed off the side of QO. That death would have really hurt him and potentially just put him out of the game for a little bit too long, as March is really starting to fly ahead as far as items go. It looks like the Manta style will be the follow-up item for Tiny. And you know, the lifesteal that the Helm of the Dominator provides is pretty solid. And with the amount that March hits for, you know, over 240 or about 240 per hit, it's pretty impressive. And I believe that's experience over the past 10 minutes with MVP Phoenix. Ahead by about 61% over 5NQ's 39. Really, MVP Phoenix is starting to get favored despite the kill difference, which is actually only 2. Ooh, so Heen picks up his tier 3 Necromanion, and he got that thing quite fast. We could see some more pushing happening from Phoenix shortly, at least as soon as Tiny picks up his Manta style, which will help out a lot with the pushing as well. Roshan hasn't been touched as well this game. He's still just chilling in his cave with his Aegis, enjoying his time alive for the time being. But still, 13-11, 23.5 minutes into the match. This is the first match between MVP Phoenix. Hold that for him. He gets the hook. In come the Cogs as well. The Disrupt goes on the Luna as well. Out comes her ultimate, and what a great initiation. But it got thwarted almost instantly by 5NQ, as they had basically their entire team there. The Tiny, the Wisp, and the Clockwork all ended up falling almost instantaneously. And FX, with the clutch disruption, kept QO alive. That really helped out as well. And are we going to see a Roshan attempt from QO? That's the question. Oh, the Sunstrike, it hit Cynical. But 5NQ's entire squad is saved. Timbersaw is nearby, is at the Roshan pit. And I'm pretty sure MVP Phoenix, they know what's going on. But do they have the heroes to come in and stop this Roshan attempt before it's too late? That's going to be the real question. In comes the Rocket Flare. KSH and QO are both darn low on health. I think this Roshan attempt needs to be abandoned. And indeed it is, as we have QO TP away. 4F doing a good job of just scaring off the opposition. Tiny's picked up his ultimate orb. So that's certainly, man, look at him just go to town on those creeps. That double damage DPS out of this world. Killing those ancients like they're flies. And that's also gonna most likely give him his Manta style, or it looks like he's only about 200 gold away from it. So Phoenix is the late game treads closer. Going to see them be a lot more powerful. As far as these pushes go, Segun whiffs the hook. Doesn't manage to latch onto a tree, but it looks like he's okay. No pursuit from Phoenix. And there's the Manta style I was looking for. Tiny just got it. Kyo deciding he wants to take a second shot at Roshan. I think he's going to need a few friends to make this possible. And with the third arrival for Cynical, it's going to be an Agnum Scepter, giving his familiars a little bit of an extra boost. And Luna, she has managed to pick up drums, getting an Ogre Club as well, so finding a little bit of farm, but not an insane amount. And look at how tanky these illusions are. This tower is going to fall quite fast, I feel. In comes the puck. And Heen laying down some frost. Oh, the DPS. Segun could be in a little bit of trouble. He keeps getting stunned as he tries to get out of there stuck. And the cogs, the mini stuns are enough to pick him off. Cynical falling next. These illusions, though, they do manage to pick off the Crystal Maiden. Well, that's still a 4-for-1 trade. Not what 5&Q is looking for. And now the score is 17-15. Phoenix in the lead. This is almost assuredly a tier 2 tower that will fall. And March and Co, they could decide just to go to Roshan. They have the DPS. There's not a lot of members alive on 5&Q. Roshan's at half health as well. Easy pickings for MVP. And almost certainly down Roshan will go. Even putting in a clarity on the Summon Demon from the Necro Buttons. And MVP Phoenix with a 58% lead in gold over their opposition. 5&Q stuck at 42. Tiny hitting level 16 with the Manta style, with the Agnum Scepter, some lifesteal, and an Aegis. My oh my, does he look scary. Puck's in the top lane. He's gonna have to be quite careful. Just used up his illusionary orb. In comes Tiny, but there's a blink away. QO still looking for a little bit more farm. Managed to hit 776 gold, but is still quite a ways from the BKB. The Magic Immunity, or Magic Giving Bar. Trying to see what Luna can do at the Ancients. Unfortunately, they aren't really stacked, so it's just one camp. But there's one thing for certain. 5&Q is on the defensive. MVP is just roaming around the map. We do see some excellent ward coverage for 5&Q. Pretty much have their side of the jungle and the ramp near their Ancients warded. Sunstrike looking for something, finding nothing. Wouldn't be surprised to see March just, throw out a few illusions and start to slowly whack away at the tower at the top, which is exactly what he's doing. And he's going to teleport away. Look at how much gold Tiny has as well, might I add. We're already over 4,000. So we'll see what item he wants to pick up next. And there's a lot at his disposal. He could even decide to just, you know, add more health to his name and upgrade that Helm of the Dominator into a Satanic. But yeah, 5,200 gold. Okay, March, let's go ahead and see you spend that money on something. And the farming menace continues. Okay, decided to buy something. Okay, indeed, he is going to go for that Satanic. But a lot of 5 and Q, they're rotating towards the top. Invoker, though, never wiser, decides to back up. And it's kind of just not essentially a stalemate, but neither side really finding the engagements that they necessarily want. I also feel like this Tiny is never going to die with a double damage rune, Aegis, Manta style, and last but not least, the Satanic. And the Satanic gives more damage as well to the Tiny. He is a strength hero. He's got about 125 strength to his name, approximately. 340 damage per shot. Nice Sunstrike hit. In comes the hook on Q. Oh, following the Sunstrike, that's almost assuredly a death for Ev, showing some amazing hooking power. And I think that actually just caused 5 and Q, that Midrax, and maybe even the game. Look at that tower. That tower died immediately. The next one should fall shortly. Down goes FX. These illusions are almost as dangerous as a hero. Buyback on the Luna, but he falls almost instantaneously. Down comes the Meteor. Doesn't really hit too much, but still scares a few members away. Oh, March with the stun. That's a dead Tiny. Holy crap, March is absolutely unstoppable. GG from QO and 5 and Q. As the first game ends, not even a Rax falls. MVP feeling quite happy after that victory. And MVP's MVP, gotta give it to March. Certainly the biggest damage dealer on their team, but I guess also the Tiny, or not the Tiny, that is the MVP I'm thinking of, but the Clockwork as well made a lot of really excellent hooks on the Luna to just really almost permanently stunt her growth in the game. So